The auditorium shimmered under the glow of distant city lights that filtered through the massive transparent walls. It was a place where the finest musicians of the galaxy performed, and tonight the famous pianist, Lucas, was scheduled to play a piece that had been hailed as impossible even by seasoned performers. The crowd was expectant, murmuring among themselves, eager to witness mastery. In the shadows, near the back of the hall, a young girl named Lila sat quietly. She was blind, and her presence here was unnoticed by most, but she had come with a purpose that burned brighter than the stars outside. Her fingers, slender and nimble, rested lightly on a small folding keyboard she had brought with her. It was a modest instrument, nowhere near the grand piano on stage, but it carried her hope, and that was enough. Lucas began his performance, his hands flying across the keys, each note crystal clear, echoing with precision. He noticed Lila only when he paused and heard a faint, uncertain plink from her keyboard. A ripple of laughter ran through the audience, hushed but palpable. Lucas smirked, a mix of amusement and disdain. Perhaps even the blind cannot escape their limitations. He whispered to a nearby assistant, loud enough for some to hear. Lila's cheeks flushed, but she did not move. She inhaled slowly, feeling the vibrations of the floor beneath her, the subtle resonance of the instruments around her, and the rhythm of the music Lucas played. In that moment, she felt a connection not just to sound, but to something greater, the pulse of life itself, of human ingenuity that could reach across galaxies, and yet still be fragile when underestimated. When Lucas finished, the applause was thunderous. He bowed, basking in the adoration. The audience had already dismissed Lila, considering her curiosity and her small keyboard an inconsequential distraction. Yet she did not let it deter her. She slid closer to the stage, her heart steady, her mind focused. She placed her hands on the grand piano. Its surface was cool, almost daunting under her fingertips. She let her fingers hover above the keys, sensing their spacing, feeling the subtle energies that vibrated within the wood, energies she had learned to perceive through touch and intuition. The hall quieted as she pressed the first key. A note rang out, pure and haunting. It was a simple tone, but it carried a weight, a presence that made some in the audience shift uncomfortably. Lila began to play, each note carefully measured, yet flowing with a natural grace. The melody was unfamiliar, yet it felt ancient, as if it had been whispered to her by the stars themselves. Lucas watched, his expression shifting from amusement to disbelief. The notes were flawless, complex, and yet deeply human. She played with a rhythm that seemed to bend time, a melody that carried the triumphs and sorrows of countless generations. The audience held its breath. Even those who had mocked her could not look away. It was then that the hall seemed to change. The lights dimmed slightly, not from the building, but from something beyond. The stars outside flickered in resonance with her music, as if the universe itself paused to listen. Lila did not see, yet she felt it, a subtle vibration, a gentle hum that guided her hands. She realized then that music was not just sound, it was connection. It could bridge the gap between beings, between planets, even between worlds. Her fingers danced across the keys, executing passages that no one thought possible. Lucas attempted to intervene, to match her skill, but every note he struck seemed hollow compared to hers. There was a mastery here that went beyond training. It was instinct, intuition, and something uniquely human, the ability to feel and convey emotion in ways that even the most advanced synthetic performers could not replicate. By the time she reached the crescendo, tears had formed in the eyes of many in the audience. The melody rose and fell like a living creature, a narrative of hope and resilience, of humanity's courage in the face of adversity. Even the famous pianist felt the weight of inadequacy press against him. He had practiced for years, studied the techniques of countless masters. Yet here was a blind girl, untrained by any academy, producing a performance that eclipsed his own Dot as the final note lingered in the air. The hall was silent. There was no applause, no exclamations, only a profound, shared recognition of something extraordinary. Lila's hands hovered above the keys, waiting for the sound to fade completely before releasing them. She felt the energy of the room, the collective awe, and the subtle respect that had grown in that instant. Lucas swallowed hard, his pride and ego shaken. He approached her cautiously, not as a rival, but as someone who had witnessed the undeniable truth of human potential. I didn't know," he murmured, voice tinged with humility. Lila smiled softly, her expression serene. "Sometimes it's not about what we see, but what we feel." News of her performance spread faster than any transmission could travel. Across planets and colonies, people spoke of the blind girl who silenced a world-renowned pianist with her music. Scholars debated how she could play with such precision. Scientists pondered the neural adaptations that allowed her to perceive the piano in ways previously thought impossible. But everyone agreed on one point. She had reminded humanity of its unique potential Dot in the days that followed. Lila was invited to perform in other grand halls, across cities and starports. Each time, she captivated audiences not just with her skill, but with the message embedded in every note, that human determination, creativity, and emotional depth could surpass even the most sophisticated technologies. One evening, on a floating platform orbiting a distant planet, she played for a council of interstellar delegates. They had traveled from multiple systems, equipped with devices that could simulate perfect music, yet none could replicate the raw human essence of her performance. As her fingers glided over the keys, the delegates leaned forward, their cybernetic enhancements momentarily silenced, their attention fully captured. Among them was a representative from a civilization that had long relied on machines for art, believing that organic beings were too flawed to achieve true creativity. When Lila finished, the delegate whispered to a colleague, "Perhaps we have underestimated them." The words carried both awe and respect, an acknowledgement that humanity still had a role to play in shaping the future, not as followers of technology, but as originators of inspiration. Lila did not play for fame or accolades. She played because she loved music, because she understood that it could convey what words and visuals could not. Each performance was a reminder that even in a universe dominated by machines and logic, there remained a space for human intuition, emotion, and courage. Back on her home planet, she returned to the modest studio where her journey had begun. The keyboard she had carried everywhere now sat quietly in a corner, a companion in her growth. She touched its keys lightly, feeling the familiar resistance and the memory of every note she had played. The city outside buzzed with activity, spacecraft streaking across the sky, the hum of progress ever present. Yet she knew that amidst all this advancement, the essence of humanity, the capacity to create, to feel, to connect was what truly mattered. As the years passed, stories of Lila's performances became legend. Children on distant colonies were taught to listen not only with their ears, but with their hearts, inspired by the blind girl who had reminded a galaxy that human potential could reach beyond expectations. Lucas, now older and wiser, often reflected on that night with a mixture of humility and admiration. He had learned that mastery was not only about skill, but about understanding the deeper currents that connected beings across space and time. Lila continued to play, never losing her humility, never forgetting the first moment she had sat before the grand piano and heard the world around her. Each note she struck was a testament to perseverance, to the courage to face ridicule and still shine, and to the power of humanity to surprise, to inspire, and to rise above any challenge. And so, in a universe filled with wonders both artificial and natural, one blind girl played her music, And in doing so, she silenced the world not through force, not through spectacle, but through the undeniable beauty of human spirit. Her melody lingered long after she had left the stage, a reminder that no technology, no alien intelligence, and no doubt could ever diminish the creative fire that burned within humanity. It was a fire that would continue to illuminate the stars, one note at a time,